Good afternoon. I appreciate you all coming out on somewhat of a short notice. As an issue that come up and several people voiced their concerns, whether it's online or telling a friend that told another friend that circled back around. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, because one of the hardest things is in any position is, trying to measure the temperature of the community and what is important. That's a hard thing to do. We hear things, we have personal things that we consider that are important, and then we know some folks that tell us some things that are important. But I tell you, the world of social media really helps all of us out at all levels, because folks know that you can get on social media, you can either tell them, show who you are, be a spoof page, or be anonymous when you voice your concerns. So before I get started, I want to make sure that I recognize our members of the town council that are here this afternoon. I see Mayor Pro Tem Donald Brock in the back with the blue shirt, ball cap. I see Councilwoman Andrea Fripp next to him, and Councilwoman Erica Page right back here in the yellow. So appreciate you all coming out. This is a very important topic. We have the pleasure, and I'm going to sit down here, but before I do, June the 23rd, make sure that you lock that into your calendars. That is our next town council meeting, 6 p.m. right here in this building. If you would like to be put on the email list where you get the agendas and everything important that we send out, please email, and I'll say this slowly, DURST, DURSTS at townofblythewood.sc.gov. And that is DURST followed by S at townofblythewood.sc.gov. Email her. Ask her to add you to that list. That is important as we continue to build and make sure that you're properly informed. Without further ado, I'm going to call a good friend that I met way back, and we're still good friends to this day. Executive Director Kevin Shwedo, the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicle. He has a hard task right now with the movement of that office here. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Shwedo to explain to each and every one of us exactly what's going on. And afterwards, we want to come back and we want to hear your thoughts and concerns on this. And we want to hear what solutions that you have so that we can draft the necessary letters to ask for that continued support. Director.
I'm going to see if I can talk to you without this, because if I talk the way I normally talk into this thing, you all will have a headache long before I finish. After 32 years in the military, God bless the people who are going to have to listen to this. All right, so here's what happens. They are going to go ahead and walk out there, and the first parking spaces I will own are the ones to where I've got the leadership at the DMV and the leadership of the public safety guys. They're all going to give their parking spaces up, and we are going to be happy to do it. Now, we're still going to put parking spaces up, but they're going to be in the back part of the parking lot because we don't have to be close. We just got to have a place so we can get in and out quickly. All right? All of those spaces to the left are going to become athletic fields. The handicap part is going to be athletic fields. I've got to build a parking lot outside of DPS's with money we don't have right now. We're going to use the money that is supposed to replace our chiller. If I don't get money to pay for that chiller before the end of the summer or before it breaks, we're toast. And a lot of people are not going to like me. All right? So we don't have enough room to do what we're doing right now. If you add to it the traffic that we're going to have at the DMV, I can't do it. People are going to be parking in every grassy area between trees illegally on the sidewalks. There is no way to avoid to keep that place open. Okay, even with the new spaces, we can't do that open. Now, here's the stump the chump question. Did I mention there were going to be high school kids in there? I don't own the entrance to my own workspace. It is shared space. Now, I can't use the high school space, the first entrance, but they can use my space in the front ones. Any of you remember being in high school? Any of you remember driving to high school? Do you think they're going to try to steal any of my parking spaces? Okay, we're just going to exacerbate that whole darn problem. So we are moving. I wanted to move to the place by Peba off of 277. I thought we had a contract. We actually were going to be able to fix it and make that work. Guess what happened? They sold the property, and they don't want us. We have been objected before we got there. We're done. So the only no-cost option I have is to move it to O'Neill Court. Now, if you've walked in O'Neill Court, there's a whole right side full of office space. The whole left side is pretty much empty because it's a waiting area. What am I going to do with all of my people at Blythewood? They're going to go on the right side. And there's not going to be much of a waiting area. There are going to be people standing in there, period. Okay? Now, what are the no-cost options? Because I can't move without money. Some of you, I listened to the news, got WIS here. I listened to you and told me what I could do without money. You know what we used to say in the military about stuff like that? Great ideas without resources or vision without resources is nothing more than another form of hallucination. I got no money. All right? Now, I've got a great idea, because I've got to find a way to go ahead and make this work. You want me here? I've got the perfect no-cost solution. Give me this room right here at no cost. Because you want skin in the game? By God, we're going to have skin in the game. This room, I'll go take it back to my board of directors tomorrow and see what I can do about moving from Blythewood here. Because when I move, we're going to do it just like Wayne Gretzky did. We're not going to go ahead and skate to the puck, because losers skate to the puck. You got to skate to where the puck is going to be. And that means, what do we look like 20 years from now, or it ain't worth moving. I don't move from one location to another just to move. I don't move just to create a satellite position. Now, one of your going in positions was, let's take their disaster recovery vehicle. Amen, hallelujah, let's go ahead and do it. But the legislature turned down my request to resource it. I've got no people and I've got no money to spend on the vehicle to keep it operating. So that ain't an option. And when a disaster comes, guess what? It's gone anyway. Okay? We didn't have a CARES vehicle before I got there. We got it just for the hurricanes, and we have used the heck out of it. We've got CARES, which is a community area response and emergency services vehicle. And then we've got SHARCs, which are, self-contained area response kits. They don't do it, but for very short periods of time. Okay? So those are non-starters in terms of response. If a tornado had taken down my DMV, as happened in Moncks Corner, I deploy it at that point in time with the staff from Moncks Corner. But it is suboptimal. They can't work as fast and as hard to get the throughput I need from a standard office. It is suboptimal. So what are we talking about now? Somebody says, what about, let's go down to, what is the shopping area down there? Village at Sand Hills. Hallucination, got no money. All right, now, you know, from a county perspective, county may say, this is a great idea, we'll pay for it, in which case I take it back to the board and we look for the business case to move it if that's the case, because it could do some things. We all know that, you know, they're having troubles out there. Does the traffic that comes into the DMV every day become traffic that saves that shopping area? Heck, I don't know. But that ain't my case to make. My case is, how do I spend effectively the most, whatever you call it, the money the most effectively? Because right now, again, in transparency, we're not going to play poker. I'm not going to lie to you. You ain't the highest priority. I'm going to give you an example. How would you like to live? Anybody tell me what the third largest city in this state is? Third largest. Charleston is probably number 2. Greenville is number 1. Huh? Spartanburg? Nope. Richmond, Columbia? Nope. Nope. You ready? Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant is the third largest in the state. And their one DMV is smaller than the one I've got at Blythewood. Smaller. I've got, their population drives from where I am to Latson, to Leeds, to Orleans, and to Moncks Corner, and to Georgetown. Okay? Your options, as soon as I close, Winnsboro, O'Neill Court, Shop Road, or Irmo. Camden if you want to make the drive. But I've got to find a way to fix big problems. I've got huge throughput problems. Now, has the legislature given me any money for that? No. Why? Because they know we're going to go through a modernization effort. We're going to spend $100 million in the next 5 years writing all the software to redo the computer work. Okay, why? The governor hates it when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't want to see you in the DMV any more than you want to be there. If I can keep you out by keeping you online, that's what I'm going to do. So if I go in and ask for people that we're going to give away almost immediately, probably not a good business case. So I've got people that I shuttle around to different DMVs to make the demand work. Everybody that goes from Blythewood is going to go to whatever it's called, O'Neill Court, and we're going to make it work. And what's going to happen, some people are going to migrate up to Winnsboro. I've got that, okay? But I can't afford the solutions that everybody has with my money. Because when I got to the DMV 15 years ago, the first thing I was hit with was, Shwedo, you've got no money. Furlough all of your people to make the books balance. I am not shafting people because I can't manage my money. Okay? Nobody's going to lose a job either in the movement or in the transformation when we modernize. All I'm going to do is work on getting the times down to service people by pushing more people at the problem with technology. So if you look at a solution right now that comes back and says, Shwedo, but you can go ahead and spend money. I've got to spend money I don't have right now to move the DMV from where it is to another location. I could move it into this beautiful space you've got here. But you don't want to hear that because you rent it out and you make some damn good money on it. I've got that. So it's somewhat sarcastic when I take it up. But when I look at, population of Blythewood, if this is accurate, 6,267. And climbing. It's going to climb. All right. The state, since I've been here, has climbed from 4 million to 5.3 million. It's greater than a 25% jump. You know how many new DMVs I've gotten in that time? 0. You know how many more people I've gotten? 0. It is through business processes that keep me alive. Okay? When I look at a population of 6,267, let's do the math on this one. Let's assume right now that, the average driver's license is good for 8 years. The idea is good for 8 years. You can actually, in Richland County, pay your taxes and get your sticker online. I ain't done it any other way since I've gotten here. We make trips to the DMV we don't need to make. So let's go ahead and do the math. Take 6,267, divide that by the 300 work days in the year, multiply that by 8, and maybe, I've got 4 visits a day. When I've got the 3rd largest population in the state without adequate support, I have taken every break room in Lexington away. I've knocked holes in the wall. I stole spaces to park from the Department of Transportation. I am the single greatest traffic impediment to Lexington right now. They hate me. And I'm trying to get them to hate me so much that they'll pay for a new facility. If I can do the same with you, I will. When I look at the coverage, right now 17 miles to Shop Road, 11 to O'Neill Court, Winsboro is 17, Ballantyne is 23. When all the other states are going to think about yourself now at Mount Pleasant, driving to Moncks Corner, driving to Latson, driving to Leeds, or driving to Georgetown, because there are the comparisons. Each of these towns has twice as many people as Blythewood and has no DMV. Port Royal, Red Hill, Tigakay, Boiling Springs, Hardyville, Powdersville, Red Bank, Beaufort, Conway, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, Spartanburg, Gaffney, Ridgeland, Anderson, and Lexington. What transactions do we perform? I got the whole year's worth of transactions at my headquarters. 6,389 people coming to turn a license plate. You can do it online and keep the damn plate and print out a receipt. 5,471 new registrations. Many of those are out-of-state dealers bringing their packages to Blythewood to do business in Blythewood, and I don't care if they drive another half hour. I'm going to find a way to eventually get them online so that they don't jam up my lines. Original beginner's permits, almost 5,000. Ain't much I can do about that. We want the kids to drive. As a matter of fact, the average age of a kid driving today is 18. Why is it 18? When you wanted to get your driver's license, why did you get it? To see your buddies? You know where their buddies are right now? They don't drive, okay? When they leave mom and dad's house and they've got to do things like go to class or go to school or something, things change. Renewing a registration, almost 5,000, you can do online. Okay, reissue products like driver's licenses where we got to get a picture, about 4,700. we're not asking a lot of people to drive to the DMV once, maybe twice a year. So if we're going to get emotional about this, I can get emotional too. But my job is there damn well better be a very good business case as opposed to an emotional case to force me to change. Or you better have some serious bucks or ready to let me sign the lease on this bad boy. State outlook, we're going to grow by another 1 million people in the next 10 to 15 years. And I will probably shrink during that period. They will probably be, in Richland County, I'm only required to have 1 DMV per county. I've got 4 in this county right now. O'Neill Court, Shop Road, Blythewood, and what's that? Irma. That one doesn't count. I was counting Winsboro, and that's wrong. Okay. The Board of Economic Advisors predicting that there's going to be a government shortage in workforce during that period of time. The fact of the matter is, here's my greatest fear as we go on. I want to focus on bringing good people to the DMV. For a period of time, I had a 40% turnover rate, which means that I would turn over about 800 people a year. Not 800, was it 16? So about 600 people a year at the DMV. We're down to about 20%, so it's not nearly as much. But I hire people faster than any other state agency. I can get people turned over in about 2 weeks. It means I've got to have a hell of an education program. But it ain't like running your 7-Eleven. You just don't scan something at the DMV and we spit something out. We've got 400 different transactions, all required in law, all have to be, interpreted individually. They've got to be experts in tax law, insurance law, revenue, probate. All of those things are things that they will interpret every day. International law, okay? You just don't hire those people and bring them into position. My greatest fear is my friends across the street. Do you think that they're going to need any HR people, IT people, facilities people, mid-level managers? I'm going to lose a lot in the next couple of years. And you know what I'm going to do to stop them? Not a damn thing. If they can double their salary by going over to Scout, I'm going to find other people because I want them to go ahead and be able to benefit from that growth because that's taking care of people. That's one of the things that we tried to do. So I've got to balance requirements across the entire spectrum, and that's what I'm going to do. And I've tried to lay it out in terms of a business case because although it sounds emotional, the mayor and I are still going to be the best of friends at the end of the day. You can yell at me, come over and step on my toes. I'm going to be fine. And I still am not going to be mad at anybody here because we don't do things personally or retributively. We do it because it's the right thing to do for the state. I have to balance your priorities as individuals against the state priorities as a business case and not an emotional case. So with that, I will take any questions you've got. Wow, it sounds like church. Yes, ma'am. Can I pile on that one? So for what it's worth, it takes right now with Real ID 3 months to get an appointment in North Carolina. The people come in early hoping somebody is not going to show up. You might be there a couple of days waiting for a slot to open. And people before Real ID, the news, said, Shwedo, Why don't you go ahead and offer them appointments? Because it's stupid. 1/3 of the people don't show up for appointments. After 3 days, you've lost a day. When you multiply that over time, it equates to a 3-month waiting list. It's not going to be me. We ain't doing appointments. Why? Can't make a good business case for it. The promise I made to the media, the promise I made you, was if you bring all of your documentation to get a real ID in, even if it's at 4:59, you're going to get a real ID before you leave. We didn't fail that mission. Okay? Why? Because I know my team. I know what they're capable of doing. They are great people. And I'm going to throw one other thing under the bus. When I got here, anybody want to take a guess at what the salary was for 800 of my 1,500 people when I got here? Annual salary. Somebody give me a number. 35, 25, 22. We were under the federal poverty rate for a family of 4. We were able to 3 years ago, get a 50% pay raise. They were at 33. You know what happened during that exact same time? Inflation. That doesn't measure gasoline, doesn't mention fast food, doesn't mention other things. And at the most vulnerable population level, it doesn't translate into a percentage. It translates into a dollar amount. You know what the dollar amount is? Just by coincidence, $11,000. So my 33 has gone back to 22. Unfortunately, we are getting paid by the appropriate wage scale now that the rest of the state is. So I got to be cognizant of that with my people. But I appreciate the North Carolina. I wasn't going to throw my buddies under the bus, but now that you've done that, I mean, and they're not the only state that's like that. Yes, sir.
Take over. The school is taking over. You said it's a high school?
It's K through 12.
Is it private chartered school?
I don't know. They haven't let me in on the skinny. There are all kinds of great signs, and if I weren't driving so fast on the way home, I might see them. But I don't know. I don't know. I have been told, and this is just a rumor, okay, so take it as a rumor. But I have been told that it's tied to Scout Motors and trying to make sure that their future population is educated as they go over to Scout. I don't know where the money's come from. I don't know whether it's private. I don't know whether it's public. I just know that they're going to open K through 12. Yes, ma'am.
It's ALA. I'm not sure what the acronym. I can't remember, but they exist over in Lexington right now, and I hear really good things about them. But it is a free charter school, K through 12. From what I understand, is the primary will be over here, and then high school will be the following year, so 2026 to 2027. But
they're going to have some gorgeous athletic fields. Yes, sir.
I'll give you your staff kudos. I've had licenses in 8 different states, and we moved here from Chicago area, so the day, 2 days, 3 days to get a real ID. I can tell you that they waited till you got right up to the front, and if you weren't being helped, you were see you tomorrow. So I appreciate you. Your staff here was great. I went in, I had help right away. People got me in, got me out. That being said, I spent 37 years with the government, some of it with the military, so I know where you're coming from being straight in. The numbers that you brought up are today's numbers.
Right.
In, growth in the Blythewood area is projected, and I think the first meeting I came to, they were talking 50,000 people over the next several years. So, and I know that that place doesn't just get people from Blythewood. There's got to be people from Columbia and Two Notch Road because it's convenient. So, I'm not saying you're not too close because you already told us.
Let me use future numbers then, which is what you want.
Yes, sir.
I told you there was going to be a growth of a million. Yep. Is it going to be equally distributed? No. Okay, so the places in quote unquote the quarter of shame are going to continue to shrink, unfortunately. Places like Greenville, Hilton Head, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Greenville, Spartanburg, Lexington, and now see this are going to grow at a larger rate. But if I just use your 50,000 and I go ahead and let's say that it does grow 50,000, okay, at that point in time that it would take the 10 years, the vast majority, well, all of my modernization would be done. Many of the things that are available would be done. One of the things that we're getting ready to do, we've got 3 kiosks in the state. We made this announcement a year ago. The kiosks suck because we're not making any money on them at all. Why do they suck? Because the tax assessors and auditors wouldn't let us collect the money for the taxes in there. But if you allow us to take the taxes in there, we can print out your driver's, your registration and your sticker. And guess what we found out? We've made progress in the last 2 weeks. If we get the consensus for every county that we get that we'll be allowed to put it in a shopping mall, I've got a company that's going to give me the machines for free. And you'll be able to go into Kroger and Lowe's and all those other great places and use that as a satellite DMV because I don't want to see you any more than you want to see me. But the growth piece that you're talking about, we've got to figure out in the state how that's going to perpetuate itself. Where is that million going to go? And then we're going to have to determine what we can do with technology, but I can't bet the farm right now on where we think it's going to be. Yes, sir. Just a town. Just a town. You know, if I go ahead and take all of those other, we try to do things comparatively. So the numbers I used that told you they were 2 to 3 times larger than you, were in the same type of group. So percentage-wise, they still beat you by 3 times the size. So if we go to the unincorporated pieces of those areas, they still beat you by 3 times the size. Right. And that's it in most of the urban areas. You take a look at the sprawl right now that's going on in Lexington up towards the Lake Murray area. You take a look at Hilton Head Island as it's pushed out in Beaufort and Bluffton and those areas, goes all the way to Ridgeland. If you take a look at the sprawl that's taking place in Myrtle Beach, you know, you're passing entire communities before you get into Myrtle Beach proper. And so the sprawl is what's, here's the interesting piece. A good friend of mine is the vice president of U-Haul. And he sent me a news article that hadn't been released by U-Haul before it was released to the rest of the nature. We have more one-way rentals with U-Hauls to South Carolina than any other state in the country. What is that a predictor of? It is a predictor of the fastest growth to this state than any other state in the country right now. And that's where we're getting that 1 million growth. So if you take a look at it, we're going to go from 4 million to potentially 6 point, whatever you call it, probably 5 million. Take a look at how much it's grown within 20 years. I get that one. But we can't predict exactly where those pockets are going to be. Yes, sir.
Can you explain to me again how long this process has been going on? I know you said they had the buildings that were vacant.
Yep.
And then they were bought.
So, all right. When I got there about 15 years ago, we didn't have a DMV in my Blythewood office. We put it there because I wanted to distribute the load as much as possible and give great service. Okay? In about that same time, they evacuated those buildings. It used to be Computer Sciences Corporation and several other things. We in 2015 used it for FEMA for about 6 months, and it's been deserted ever since. We don't know, because of lack of use, whether they're going to be able to use those for classrooms or they're going to have to knock them all down. ain't my problem, but it's what they're dealing with right now. Really depends upon, is the infrastructure still good enough? And so what we didn't know when it was purchased originally, before I got to the DMV, we didn't know any of these rights-of-way things. We didn't know that we didn't have parking to the left. We did not know that we didn't have the handicap parking there. You know, we always assumed that we were using about the right footprint. But when the school comes in with pictures of what those athletic fields are going to look like and where the lines on my parking lot are, we tried to negotiate. I wanted to negotiate just to keep the handicap parking, because I don't want my handicap people have to move even another row over. You know what the answer came back on that one? Nope. Okay, they've got it measured on out. They're going to let me keep that, whatever it's called, I got news today, just before coming here, literally just before, that I get to keep my handicap until March 6th, and then I lose it. No. When they closed originally, they closed all 5 buildings, but not together. Okay, when I first got there, there were some activity in those 3 buildings, but not for a long time. You could just watch them. The symbolism to me was they had a great cafeteria. The craft cafeteria had 5 different selections. You had a salad bar and a main bar and a sandwich bar. And when they closed that up, that was the indicator everything was done. And that happened probably 2012. Yeah. I made the decision about probably 3 months ago. And what I did was, by law, I'm required to brief one group of people. It was the, whatever you call it, the legislative delegation. Because, there are a whole lot of things that happen, during this period of time. I'm fighting for a budget at the legislature. I am, whatever you call it, still going out and visiting the 16 law enforcement networks. I'm visiting all 66 DMVs in person. And so there is no way to physically get everything done that everybody wants. I don't know why, but there are about 5.3 million people that think I ought to answer their email personally, okay, which is where I'm going with this. I can't go and brief every community every time we make a decision, and it's why the legislature passed a law that forces me to brief the delegation when we're going to close. So I've known 3 months. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Do you remember when the meeting was, off the top of your head? I don't remember. Yeah, it was sometime after that. Okay, here it is, June. My guess is it was probably around the March time frame. What? March? And so, the fact of the matter is there's a lot going on in their world. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. You guys pick on your legislatures. It's my time to do what I tell every legislator I do. Somebody tell me how much you think your legislature makes in salary every year. It's about $12,000. You think you can feed your family on it? Okay. How large is their staff? Okay. Their staff, if you are a House of Representatives, is 1/4 of one person. If you're a senator, it's 1/2 of one person. And they've got to work every issue that 500,000 people want to give them. You know how I can tell a good legislator on Tuesday when they show up? They've got a church bulletin with notes on it, meaning A, they listen to their constituents, and 2, they've been to church. Okay? My point becomes, we want to point fingers right now at the legislature. They don't have the time to cognitively grasp everything that you think they do. They're talking to all of you. And they're dealing with 500,000 people that all, like I told you joking here a few minutes ago, think that all of their email needs to be handled personally. Do you think there are any entitled people in that group? Okay, they've got to deal with those people that threaten them within an inch of their life about they're not going to get elected because. And I wouldn't have their bloody job for the world. So my point becomes with this, in the candor kind of things, we notify them. I laid it on out as there is nothing we can do, there's nothing you can do to influence it unless you can come up with the money. It's too late in the season to come up with the money. But we've got a plan. Here's my plan to make sure that the people in this community are taken care of. And that's the best I can do from a business case, unless you want to give me this beautiful room. Yeah, yes, ma'am. So when you double the amount of spaces, like I say, people will come in, we'll try to get everybody in. Here's the problem with the methodology. Do you know when I get pictures from people about long lines, it's usually at opening. And there are 40 people in line, for example, at Shop Road. Well, I've got 20 windows. So if you wait 2 times, you're in. So we have one of the shortest wait times in the country. We push people through faster than you could believe. The average wait time for the entire state averages from the time you get to the greeter to the front window right now, 13 minutes. All right? Now, at Shop Road, it's closer to 20. At O'Neill Court, it will be closer to 20. But when you get to the window, you're typically out in 4 minutes. And so the point becomes, you know, where do we go ahead and make the decision? Because somebody's got to find the money. And what I'm telling you is, you're throwing me a hospital pass. In rugby, I still play competitive rugby. I love hitting people, okay? You know what a hospital pass is? If I got a guy behind me as we're running down the field that I don't like, and somebody twice my size getting ready to hit me, I go ahead and pass my buddy the ball, and I make sure the ball's above his head so his ribs are exposed. If you give me no money, that's the hospital pass. Yes, sir.
So the money, we just passed a new budget,
Yes, we did.
and there was no pork barrel.
That's correct.
There was no special deals, backdoor deals.
I don't
And-
get any of them anyway, so.
Well, this scout plant is near and dear to the entire state. So some of that extra money that we have now, have you tried to approach the governor, the city of Blythewood?
Do you know how much money the governor has, discretionary income?
Absolutely no idea.
None. During the post-Reconstruction days, I'm giving you a history lesson. This is dangerous because this is a Yankee giving you a Southern history lesson. In the post-Reconstruction days, they made and created the weakest form of governorship available. And I hate to bring race into this, but they were afraid of what happened if a black man became governor. And so he has no power. What is the governor's sole source of power? Sole source of power. It ain't income. The veto. Okay? And so I'd love to say he's got money. I would also love to say that the legislature, because it has to go through both houses, has to be able to pass a law, get through the Ways and Means Committee where it starts, into the House of Representatives, go through 3 readings, get to the Senate, go through 3 readings, and if they don't like it, go back to the House and maybe things. There is no way to do it in the March timeframe.
No, not in that time frame, but it is feasible to try and push for those funds, being that this is a centrally located area,
I'm going to
easy
throw
access.
something out you don't want to hear. I told you I was going to be transparent with you, okay?
been
It
great.
ain't my high priority. It's never going to be my high priority. It's not going to be my high priority because when I go to the legislature, they give me 3 silver bullets, okay? And a 4-star general taught me this. Colonel, when you take your first silver bullet and you shoot it at Kevlar, you know what it means? You got 2 remaining. This is not a silver bullet. So if you want to make it a silver bullet with your legislature, I'm all in. I'll go to every one of the meetings. I will support the decision 100%, but it's not going in there as a DMV priority. Now, please don't take that as dry. I know I'm very forceful. And
No, you have been so informative and prepared for this, and this is great information. But yeah, there's extra money in this budget, and there's going to be so much growth here with the scout plan, and I say, well, let's do it right.
it took me, okay, let me give you, it took me 7 years to get the money to modernize. If I had been given the money to modernize and the money was there 7 years ago, I'd be modernized right now. I am only one of 15 states in the country that are not modernized. My computer system is made by COBOL programming, which was developed, COBOL was, in 1959. I've been using the same computer system since 2002. I've got a system that's a quarter of a century old, and none of you will use Windows 10, let alone Windows 00. Okay? So my point becomes, when it comes to money, if I were Clemson or USC, I'd have a $100 million vet clinic, but I'm not. Okay? And so getting that money is painful. As a matter of fact, let me tell you how I got the money this year, because you're going to love this. I got it on the very last day, and it is something, it was a trick to allow me to get the money. They couldn't pass it in the budget, so they passed what's called the proviso, which is a one-year law. And it says, hey, Shwedo, you're allowed to raise the prices of certain of your products that haven't been raised since 1980. Okay? And if you can make enough money, you can modernize. So, for example, you're hearing this first. We're going to raise the price of things like driver's records. They're going from $6 to $10. And it's going to get me about $12 million recurring. I cannot compete a contract unless I get $12 million recurring. What I think is going to happen, I'm either going to piss them off so bad next year, they're going to take my money away, and you're not going to get modernized so that they can get mad at me because we are a little too direct. Or, God bless me, they're going to punish me, and they're going to take all that money away from me, and they're going to give me $12 million recurring so that I have to beg for it every year. And you know what? I'm good with that. Beat me with that stick. What did they say in that movie? Now, whatever you call it, thank you, sir. May I have another? Yes, sir.
I have one last question. Okay, what you're saying, this is something that, like you say, you knew about it 3 months ago. Okay, what about the state senate and the House? They didn't confront the state education department about this. My concern is school district 2 is in this area also.
Right.
And we see the area growing, and it's growing rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
My concern, they didn't have, the state education department didn't have anything to.
Well, if I'm to
say,
understand it, number one, it's a private school, so they don't get a chance to vote. And number two, I'm going to take the exact opposite. If I could send my kids there at no cost, which is what I heard, at no cost, to a better school, would I send them? In a damn nanosecond. I moved 24 times in 32 years in the military. My kids were never in the same school 2 years in a row until my son was in his sophomore year at high school. If I could have put him in a school like that, that would guarantee a better education, I would do it in a nanosecond. And if the superintendent of schools told me that was foolish, I'd look for a new superintendent.
What I'm saying, from my experience, charter schools ain't much better than a regular school today. I'm telling you, because I know the kids. I retired from it. I know the kids. Charter school is not what people think it is.
Well, then somebody's going to lose their investment, but at least that's their problem. All right.
All right. All right. Any more questions? Come on up, man.
Are we still friends, brother?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look what we got over here.
So We're
All
gonna
right,
give-
am I a dead man yet? Am I gonna get my money?
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, this sounds loud. Thank you, Director Shwedo, for answering questions and being so frank and direct. I'm a big proponent for your budget, but but he's correct. Actually, on the last day of session, we were doing budget provisos, and another senator brought up the fact that Director Shwedo hasn't gotten what he needs to do the computer upgrades. And so that is kind of how he got some money in a proviso, which is only for a year. But just a couple things. Thank you all. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm some of you state senator. I share Blythewood with Senator Overture Walker, but I'm Tamika Devine, and I've started in the Senate in 2024 last year. So I will say in my year and a half being there, 2 sessions, Director Shwedo has been very upfront and honest on what his needs are. And give y'all a perfect example, I co-sponsored a bill last year that did pass last year that would allow people who own a vehicle to have a payable on death payable transfer on death for their vehicle, which a lot of states do, so that you don't have to actually go through probate to transfer your vehicle. We passed it last year, and we were told that, okay, great, but it's gonna take us a year to even implement that because of our computer system. So he is correct that the computers at the DMV, although they've made a whole lot of strides, are not where they need to be. But to some of your questions, and I'll try and remember all of them, and if I don't, then please ask me. Couple things. Number one is the reality is that I know that it is important to the community and that you like to have this place to go very quickly. But the reality is, as he said, by law, he's only required to have one in Richland County. And yes, Richland County is large, but there are other counties that are growing a lot. And when you look at the numbers, a lot of places, a lot of people are going to online. And although they don't have the modernization that they need, they have done great strides where a lot of people can do services online. And so when you look at the way our state is growing, you look at the way people are utilizing technology, the need for the DMV over the next few years is actually going to change. And so where he's going to need to put his resources and where we're going to need to make sure that he has money is for the modernization, for the computers, for the online, so that people can have those services. And so when you look at the numbers that he just said now, when he's making his case to the state about whether or not he's going to keep an office open, and mind y'all, this year, if y'all been paying attention, in addition to kind of the whole budget thing, the other thing that's been happening is, same with the federal government, there has been a conversation about having a Department of Government Efficiency. And if you look at what happened on the federal level, you might have somebody who comes in and just cuts things left and right, not even looking at what they're doing. Director Shwedo has done a really great job even without this agency, which likely will go into effect next year. It didn't pass this year, because one of the things we were able to do on the last day is keep that from passing, as we gave you some money, but it will likely pass next year. And so what will happen is you will have somebody who will say, okay, we're gonna start cutting government agencies. But you've got a director who has already been very good at looking at the business case that he's talked about on where we need services. So do we need to put more money in the DMV? Absolutely. Do we need a physical location in Blythewood? I'm going to tell you that the business case for that likely is going to be, no matter how much Senator Walker, myself, Representative Garvin, and others say that we need it, the numbers currently don't match what other areas are needing. And so you're going to have somebody say, well, we're gonna cut, at least we're able to be surgical in the way that the DMV is cutting. What I will tell you is that what we are doing and looking at is, how do we give him the money that he needs for modernization? How do we look for solutions like he talked about, the kiosks and other things, so that you don't have less service, but you might not have that physical location here in Blythewood, but you can get the services that you need with the DMV in a way that is effective, cost efficient, and gets you the services without having to go stand in line somewhere. And so what I'm asking you is to help us let us know where the growing pains are, where you see issues. We're going to be working with Director Shwedo to make sure that you are getting the service you need. It may not be with the physical DMV location right here in Blythewood, but you are going to get the services that you need. But right now, he has done a really, really good job at trying to make a case on what his needs are. We do need to give him some more money so that we can do that. But right now, whether it's the charter school, whether it was something else that was going to buy those buildings, this was going to happen. I think we all would have liked to have more time. I think he would have liked to have more time. But unfortunately, we are where we are. And so where we're going to try and do over the next couple months, and I think someone asked a question about the budget, be honest with you, the colleagues up there don't feel like we have extra money. I think what you will hear people say is that we are being good stewards and making sure that we're prepared for a rainy day. And so they're not allocating the additional money anywhere right this second. But what I hope is that next year we can get some priorities in there, not only for the modernization, but to also make sure that we have information so that you all can you can do your services from the comfort of your own home. The other thing, Director Shwedo, and I know you and I have not talked about this, but one of my concerns is that we still have people who don't do computers. And so we've got to make sure that we are addressing our neighbors who don't do computers. So great that we say you can do this online, but if they don't have access to do it, then they're not going to have it. And so we will be talking about how can we make sure that those people can have access to do the services, even if they don't have computers or Wi-Fi. But I'll stop and see if you all have any questions. This is not, of course, something that we expected to be dealing with right this second, but I will say that Director Shwedo, and thank you to the mayor for having this meeting so that you can have your questions answered, because I know a lot of folks will see something on TV, read it in the paper, and not be able to actually ask the questions direct. So I'm glad that you were able to have this, but I'll answer any questions you all have, but I would just ask that you be a little patient with us as we address this, but I will say that you will see that it will be hopefully very minimal effect on you all, because we'll be able to get you to your services that you need even without going physically into this location. I think you were you about to raise your hand? Oh, yeah. No, okay. Any questions for me? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh, Senator Tamika Isaac Devine. Nice. I actually met you, I think, here at a previous meeting. Yes, ma'am. Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
Thank you for being present, Representative Devine, and thank our mayor for his concern about this particular issue. This is a significant matter concerning DMV and the issues that we have. I'm a recent transplant from Baltimore, and so I know the issues that are related to trying to get stuff taken care of and having lines that will literally last all day in order to get that done. My issue is a little higher, though, and it's really at the capacity where you stand, is the representatives for the lawmakers for Columbia. Is there a concerted effort to be effective in making laws such that it positively impacts the constituency? The reason why I'm saying that is I have seen redundancy where it shouldn't be, and I've seen where there has not been enough issues, there have not been enough personnel to handle the kinds of things. And I know that this is not a DMV matter, but just a quick response. Is there enough, from your vantage point, is there enough efficiency, is there enough cooperation among the lawmakers in order to get these things done? Because I haven't seen a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan for this area. And I'm thinking the pains of the last, of what used to be, is going to be the pains of our future. We don't have clear, concise directives. We're going to end up in the same place that we're here now, that we're facing today. Thank you.
appreciate the question. I will tell you that I've been in the Senate since last year, and I've seen a lot more conversation than before I was on before I was a senator, I was on city council in Columbia. So Columbia always had constant conversations with Richland County, with the state, and when I got to the Senate, I didn't see that previously, but I do see it now. I mean, the mayor texts me, calls, and so I think to your point is there needs to be, because there's so many different levels of government, there needs to be some conversation among everybody. And so I see that there's been talk about having more meetings together. It's not just because there's an issue. There's a shooting, so everybody's jumping out and coming here, or we're closing the DMV, so people are coming. But having consistent meetings about what is the 5-year plan for Richland County, and how does that include Blythewood? What is Blythewood doing? I represent the town of Irmo as well. So yes, there's a willingness to do that. Quite honestly, there has not yet been that meeting. But I think that there's a lot of people trying to get a lot of schedules together, but I do think that that would be important for us to do. And to your point about a willingness to actually be effective with laws, part of the issue sometimes is until something is brought to us, people don't know it's an issue. And so unless we're having constant conversations to say, hey, Blythewood is, perfect example, and I don't know if it'll happen. I mean, right now, I think the mayor is saying, I want that tool in my toolbox, but we're not going to do that right now. So I want to preface it by saying not do that right now. But one of the things that he brought up previously was the fact that Blythewood, you all don't have a millage. And so you're totally dependent on the county for any money that comes. And one of the things that everybody's talking about how great Scout Motors is going to be, and it'll be great on a lot of things, jobs and other things, but one of the things that Blythewood is missing out on is the tax revenue of Scout Motors. And so one of the things, the very first thing I think when he first got elected, the mayor mentioned to me is that we need to have the ability to have a millage if we so choose as a town. And so this year I will say that we did pass a law that will allow the incorporated cities and towns around the state that don't have millages, if they want, they can actually go through a process to do that. So to your point, those are things that, unless I hear it from the mayor or town council that this is an issue for you all, I don't know to propose it or to support it or push it. And so I think we need more things like that and more conversations so that we know, hey, this is a problem that this town has. They're growing. They don't have a police department. They need this. And so how can we help them with that? So we're having those conversations, but yes, there needs to be more.
Yes, sir, there is. There's a great effort right now at looking at that. I have employed several volunteers to kind of help me with that process that would be willing to go out and knock on doors, meet with people in those prospective neighborhoods. The Reimer Pond side of Blythewood, that's right outside the zip code. I've talked with several HOAs and residents on that side that are willing and wanting to be part of the town of Blythewood. The confusion for a lot of folks is that when we have voting, they show up. They feel that, hey, I'm Blythewood, I can come out and vote. So a lot of times we hear about those issues when voting come up. But we have a plan, a model in place as far as how to educate us on how to do it. We did not reinvent the wheel. This was done in my first round on council, myself, and then Councilman Brock looked at annexation, and I think it was Bluffton, town of Bluffton, that we pulled their plan and their documents and guidance. And we just basically copied that. That was said at that time to be the best document in the state of South Carolina to help with annexation. And we had 0 at that time. So we did vote and make that part of our document. Now it takes staff, okay? And I'm not up here to throw rocks at anybody, but we had an annexation coordinator position that was on what we could hire, and that was taken away. That was one key factor. So now I have to rely on people that's willing to volunteer to go out and do some things in this community to help us expand those borders.
I want to throw one thing out before you, actually two things out before everybody leaves. Number one, every one of you have got the infamous text, okay, telling you how you owe either toll money, tax money, or everything else, okay? It is being done by what we call national actors, okay, nation-state actors. These are countries. If you take a look at the address, whatever you call it, it changes virtually every time. There are more countries that are doing it than there are opportunities. It's not going away anytime soon. Does the DMV have anything to do with it? No. Is there anything the DMV can do about it? No, because they just changed the address by one digit, and they're getting very, very, very rich doing it because we've got way too many people that are hitting it. If you hit the link, you are probably downloading malicious software on your phone, and it will never be the same. It can put key logging software on your smartphone, and they have access now to your username and password to your bank. So please help me share the word that that text ain't good and it don't come from me. Second piece is somebody was just in there talking about whatever you call it, redundant efforts, okay? A business model says you're never going to go ahead and get resource for redundant efforts. It's talked to me, I get phone calls all the time about why I need more people at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on the last Friday of the month. They're never going to resource me for that. A better idea is to come down in the middle of the month. I'm going to tell you, if you just use a thing called SCDMVonline.com and go to locations, not only will it show you the location, it will show you how many people are standing in line. It'll tell you how long you're going to stand in line. And if that's too long, go to the next DMV. And if you find the next DMV you want to drive to and you don't know where it is, push the button on my app and it will pull up your map and take you there. And so the point becomes, we won't ever get resource for redundancy. We're going to get resource for time management. So I'd ask you to help me help you with time management by using my app.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions for Senator Tamika Isaac Devine and Executive Director Kevin Shwedo this afternoon? All righty, hearing none. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming out. This is what we're here for, bring you, the people, to you so you can ask those important questions. Like I said, June the 23rd, our next town council meeting. If you'd like to be added to the roster to receive agendas, minutes, and other information from the town, please email DERS@townofblythewood.sc.gov. Thank you all and have a great night.